The reason synchronicity is not changing your life is not because the universe stopped talking to you. It is because you keep treating every coincidence like a command. You see 1111 or you hear the same word 3 times or you run into someone you were just thinking about. And then instead of doing anything useful, you take a screenshot and send it to your friend and say that's crazy. I know. Really moving the timeline forward on that one. In this video, I'm going to show you what synchronicities actually are, why they happen, why most people completely misuse them, and how to turn these meaningful coincidences into a practical decision-making system. Because synchronicities are not the work, they are the feedback from the work. Now, my name is Spencer, and I created a community based off of grounded spirituality called the Elysium Institute. And we basically take these concepts and more to help integrate it within your life to become a better person. So let's start with number one. What is synchronicity? Now, Carl Jung's version is basically like this. It is a inner psychological event and an outer world event that line up in a way that feels meaningfully connected, even though there is no clear cause and effect chain between them. He basically framed synchronicity as meaningful coincidence rather than normal casuality. Said in a different way, it's basically you're thinking about moving to a new city, and that same day, 3 different people mention that city. Or you're wondering whether you should start a business, and then a stranger at a coffee shop starts talking about the exact problem that you want to solve. Another way to say this is that you're debating on whether to call someone, and then they end up calling you. This actually just happened to me right before I started recording this video. I was calling my vet to change the date, and then they called me while I was in the middle of looking for the vet's number. So everything's in alignment. Now, the mistake people make is that they immediately go, "Oh my God, that means I'm supposed to do the thing." Well, maybe. Or maybe you're just finally paying attention, and those are different, very different. This is the big split between these two. So there's basically 2 dumb ways to deal with synchronicities, right? One is to dismiss all of them. And this would be your average hyper rational person who says this is all random, nothing means anything. Humans are just pattern recognition machines and just go file your taxes, right? And to be clear, there's some truth to that. Cognitive researchers have argued that the experience of coincidences can sometimes come from the same mental machinery we use to detect patterns and reason about cause and effect. But the second dumb way is to spiritualize everything. This is the person who sees 3 blue cars and says, "The universe is telling me to text my ex." No, no. The universe is telling you that Honda had a good quarter this year. So maybe just relax a little bit. Now, the problem with the first person is that they shut down all meaning. The problem with the second person is that they outsource their responsibility to the universe. And the middle path is where you actually get the most useful help from the universe, right? Now, you do not have to prove that the universe sent you a certified letter through a license plate. You also do not have to pretend the moment didn't mean anything. The useful question is not, can I prove this was objectively arranged by reality? The useful question is, what does this reveal about what I already know, already feel, and already need to act on? This is a way better question because it puts the power back where it belongs, within you. Now, number 2 is that synchronicity is not a stop sign. It's not a green light, it's not a boss, right? It's better way to look at it as like a dashboard. Think about like on your car. Now, if the gas light turns on, the gas light is not driving the car. It is not the engine, it's not the road, and it's not the destination. It is a signal that gives you information about the system you are already operating in. Synchronicity works the same way. They are signals. And the signal is only useful if it changes how you drive. This is where people get this wrong. They stare at the dashboard, they take a picture of the dashboard, they journal about the dashboard, and then ask three tarot readers, what does the dashboard mean? And then, meanwhile, the car still sitting in the parking lot. No movement, no action, no change, just vibes. And the vibes are not the strategy. So let me give you the first rule. A synchronicity only counts as useful if it leads to a clear, cleaner next action. Not a big fantasy, not a more dramatic story, not a 45-minute voice note to your friend about how the signs are insane right now. A cleaner next action. That is the distinction. For example, let's say you keep seeing a reference to writing, okay? Someone mentions a book and then a podcast talks about writing or has a guest that's a writer on the podcast that you like. And then you open your phone and there's a post about writing on Instagram. The low level interpretation is that I am destined to be the next best-selling author of my space opera. Well, maybe, Toby, but probably not by Tuesday. A more useful interpretation is I have been avoiding writing, and this keeps showing up because some part of me knows I need to sit down and write. So, what is the next action? Just write for 30 minutes. That is it. It's not very spiritual. It's actually super spiritual. It's so spiritual that you don't even notice that you're acting spiritual. You just open the document and put words in it. It's crazy stuff, I know. Now, number 3, this is where Bashar's framework is actually very useful. And Bashar is one of my favorite persons to learn from. Channeled entity, different space, different timeline, etc. I'm not asking you to believe every metaphysical claim that comes up. That's not the point of this video. The point is extracting the operating system that this reality works with. And what he describes is very accurate if you put any effort to test it out for yourself. And the best way to do that is a formula that he created called follow your excitement. And it is basically framed as acting on your highest excitement in the moment and taking it as far as you possibly can while releasing any insistence on the outcome, while keeping or choosing a positive state regardless of what happens, and investigating any fear-based or misaligned beliefs that come up from the action that you take. That is a much more useful framework than wait for signs, right? Because notice what comes first. Action, not interpretation, not obsession, not trying to decode the spiritual stock market. Action. And Bashar also frames this excitement as a kind of physical translation of resonance with your true being. So you're essentially speaking to your higher self because this reality, this 3D reality, operates off of physical action. The higher mind brings you information. When you take action, you are speaking to the higher mind, letting them know that that action from what it gave you, that information that it gave you, the action on that information is you communicating back and forth with your higher mind, right? Your true being. And it links life experience to the interaction of beliefs, emotions, and actions that you take every single day. Now, if we strip that language down into plain English, the model is you follow the most alive option available to you, the most exciting, the most invigorating option that you can possibly take in that moment, and you take that as far as you possibly can. You do not demand that it produces the exact outcome that your ego wrote down in your little manifestation notebook, right? And then you use what happens next as feedback. That's how you close the gap, close the loop on that information of communication with your higher self. Now, that is an incredible practical process because most people do the exact opposite. They feel excitement, then they negotiate with it, right? They'll ask like 19 people for permission to act. And then they wait for signs, and then they get that sign, and then they ask for another sign to confirm the first sign. And then 6 months later, they are in the exact same spot, but now they have more crystals, which is fine. Which is fine. Crystals are nice, they're beautiful. But again, not the work you set out to do for yourself. Here's the key point. Synchronicity in this framework, it does not replace action. It organizes around action. Does that make sense? It is not, I will wait until the universe gives me the perfect pathway. It is, I will act on the clearest available excitement, and that path will reveal itself over time. That is why people who are in motion have more synchronicities. Not because they are more chosen, because they have more surface area. Think about it like walking through a city. If you sit in your apartment all day and ask the city to bring you opportunities, what are you going to get? Maybe DoorDash, maybe neighbors barking. Neighbors barking. Maybe the neighbor's dog barking too. While the neighbors, maybe they have a weird kind of communication with each other. I don't know. But that's pretty much the list. When you leave the apartment, though, you pass the coffee shop, you hear the conversation, you see the flyer, you meet the person, you get invited somewhere. Did the city suddenly become magical? Did the city suddenly become magical? No. You increase the contact, you increase the collision, you increase the number of ways the reality can interact with you. That is why the person who acts appears luckier than the person who waits. They're not necessarily luckier, they're more available to the universe, more available to act on the things the universe is offering to them, which is just your higher self. Now, number 4, there are 4 types of synchronicities, and most people confuse them, which is why they make bad decisions. So imagine we have these 4 buckets, right? Bucket 1 we'll call noise. Bucket 2 we'll call attention. Bucket 3 is invitation. And bucket 4 is confirmation. Now let's go through them. Now, bucket 1, we have noise. Noise is stuff that feels meaningful, but does not actually point anywhere useful. Like you see repeating numbers, you hear a song, you notice a symbol. There is no clear action, no clear emotional insight, no clear pattern, no clear anything. It just feels kind of cool and it's something that you notice, which is fine. We put all that stuff in the noise bucket. This does not mean that it is necessarily bad. It just means you do not need to build a religion around it, right? You do not need to build the 111 of religion, right? Which some of you desperately need this bucket because right now every random thing gets promoted to divine instructions, right? Your coffee spills to the left and you're like, I knew I should not go to brunch today. No, you're just clumsy and have bad lid mechanics. Now let's look at bucket number 2, attention. Now this is when synchronicity shows you what your mind is already tuned into. You start thinking about buying a white Jeep, and now suddenly white Jeeps are everywhere. You start thinking about pregnancy, business, divorce, moving, money, health, whatever. And now the whole world seems to be talking about the same thing. That does not always mean the world changed. It often means that your filter changed. And that's still valuable because your attention reveals your priority. If the same topic keeps jumping out at you, the question is not always, is this a sign? The question is, why am I now available to notice this? That's still useful. Now, bucket number 3 is invitation. This is probably the most important bucket An invitation, synchronicity, points to a specific next move, right? Not a fantasy, a move. You're thinking about learning video editing and someone randomly offers you a free camera. You were thinking about changing careers and someone invites you to a dinner with people in your industry. You're thinking about getting healthy and your friend says, I'm going to the gym tomorrow. Come with me. Recently, I had a friend over 4th of July weekend got an invitation of synchronicity. And this led her to a couple of DJs that she would loved, but has not seen in over like 10 years. But for some weird reason, they they decided to both unrelated go to this small town to have an amazing DJ set that she was able to walk to if she felt like. And that one invitation of her seeing that, I believe it was like a flyer, or maybe it was like on Facebook or something like that. I'm not quite sure. But she saw the invitation, and her original idea was to just stay inside and not do anything the entire 4th of July. But she took that opportunity of synchronicity to go see these two DJs that she loved and admired. Now, if it was just one, she probably not would not have even thought two things about it. But both DJs coming at the same time changed her perspective just a little bit. So I'm not going to go into great detail about it, but let's just say she had an amazing weekend hanging out with these two DJs, ended up meeting more people, having very significant conversations and meaningful, heartfelt experiences the entire weekend. Incredible moment that she has not had a feel for in over 10 years, right? That is the power of invitation. And as long as you are consistent with your alignment of what you want and are open to these invitations and are able to notice them, every day feels like a magical uh, every day feels like a magical hug from the universe, or some fun whimsical shit like that. But that's an invitation. That's an incredible moment that she would have missed out on if she was closing herself off to the things that she wanted out of life. And here's where people mess it up. They think the invitation means the whole life path is guaranteed. It does not. She had her fill over the weekend and they invited her to do more things and she was like, "Nah, I'm good." It just means you've been given a door. Open the door. Just don't get married to the door. Do not name your first child after the door. Just open it, see what comes up, take the next step, see what feedback comes back to you. She didn't run off and become a groupie for the rest of her life. She just had an amazing experience over the weekend and went back to her day-to-day life, which is amazing. Now, bucket number 4 is confirmation. Confirmation comes after action, and this is the cleanest type of bucket of synchronicity, right? You make the call and the conversation opens something up. You send the email and someone replies with a resource you really needed. You start the project and the right person appears. You move and the next breadcrumb shows up. This is why action has to come first, because confirmation before action is mostly just emotional comfort, right? Confirmation after action is data. Now, I know most of the spiritual community doesn't enjoy the maybe doesn't even enjoy the word data, but data is measurable. Data is allows you to adjust your compass. Data is useful. And now, real quick, for anyone trying to actually apply this, we put together a simple little synchronicity log. It's not like mystical or anything, it's not complicated. It's data. It allows you to measure and keep track of these synchronicity. It's literally a one-page worksheet that helps you separate noise, attention, invitation, and confirmation. So you stop making your life decisions off of emotional weather. You can grab it in the description below. Okay, back to the point. Now, number 5. Here is how to actually use synchronicities without becoming completely useless. Now, step 1 of number 5 is you write the event down. just like we just described. Not your interpretation, the event. This is important. Most people do not write the event, they write the movie they made about the event. The bad version is the universe obviously wants me to move to Austin because my barista's cousin had an Austin hat on. And then I saw a cowboy boot on Instagram. Done deal. I'm going to Austin. That's not an event. That's a Netflix pitch, right? Probably a better show than most of the stuff that's on Netflix right now. But anyway, a much better version is my own story. I was originally in Sedona, Arizona for almost 10 years, and I had a camper van and I was going to start traveling. Now, my original intention was to drive up to Colorado, go over to Utah, drive up to Alaska, come down to California, go to Baja, go down to Mexico, all these fun adventures, right? But when I decided to go up there, my heater stopped working. And at the same time, my transmission stopped working. This was the middle of winter, or going into winter. This is about fall going into winter. And by time my transmission would have been fixed, it would have been too cold to go up north, and my heater, I was in the middle of working on it. But while I was doing all this stuff, my transmission worked on, my heater fixed. It took about a week and a half. And during that time, um, I met two new people named Austin, and I met three people who are transplants, meaning they travel from Sedona to Austin pretty frequently. Like they just enjoy going back and forth. And I was contemplating on if I should go north or south because my heater stopped working. And it was like a it wasn't a sketchy situation, but there was like a lot of moving parts. My dog was being watched by my mom, and that situation was not the best because I don't even know if she was allowed to watch the dog in the place that she was at. And there was just a lot going on, and I was staying in another place because the dog was too far and it wasn't allowed in the place I was staying at. It was a train wreck, and I was trying to do the best that I possibly could. And then I kept getting these signs for Austin. I did see a license plate, yes, but I also met these two people and then these three people. I met five people, um, synchronistically related to Austin. And I was also working online with my boss living in Austin at the time, and also I wanted to meet a couple people who were in Austin. So with all this stuff happening and me just being like, I can't think right now. I ended up going to Austin. There's a lot of different things that happened that finally got me out there. I probably should not have been driving that van all the way out to Austin, but she did so good. Her name's Nova. I've since sold her, but she got me out here, and that's where I'm currently at right now. And a lot of stuff transpired, but that's for another video, another story. But that that's how synchronicity works sometimes. I was thinking either going north or south. Now, by the time I got to Austin, I realized it's just as cold as it is in Sedona. But by the time I got here, my van needed more work, and I ended up staying a lot longer. And I ended up staying for a lot longer after that. But that is a much cleaner version than, I saw a cowboy boot on Instagram, right? Now, step number two, write down the question you were already carrying because synchronicities usually land on an existing internal question. You were already wondering, should I move? Like I was. You were already wondering, should I start? Should I leave? Should I reach out? The coincidence gets its meaning from the question you were already holding within you. Without the question, it's just an event. With the question, it becomes a mirror into your soul. So, step three is identifying the smallest honest action. This is where all the magic people get mad because they want the sign to mean that they get the whole thing. They want the city. They want the soulmate, right? They want the book deal. They want the movie. They want the money. They want the clean cinematic montage where everything just works out because a hawk flew over their car. But the action it's usually boring. You have to call the person, you have to apply for the thing, you have to sell the van, you have to write the page, you have to visit the city, you have to go to class, ask the question, have the conversation, cancel the thing, start the thing. You have to move. Now, step 4 is release the outcome, right? This is the Bashar piece that people hate, love saying, but hate doing. And they often forget about it because insistence on outcome sounds wonderful until your preferred outcome doesn't happen. Then all of a sudden, you're not spiritual anymore. You're a customer support for God. Hello, I followed the excitement thing that you gave me, and the package hasn't arrived. Hasn't arrived, buddy. Where's my package? Where's my little gift wrap package in blue bonnet flowers, huh? But no assistance on outcome does not mean empathy. It means you act fully without demanding that reality validates your ego's exact plan. Your ability to imagine your outcome, your ability to think forward is very insignificant compared to your higher mind's ability to see what you wanted out of your life. Your demand on outcome is limiting you from achieving something much greater, something much more fulfilling within your heart that you don't even know exists yet. Now, it's totally possible that you get exactly what you kind of hope happens, but demanding a certain outcome and a certain wrapper limits what is actually possible within this reality. Because so much more can happen, and it's never a straight line. Like you could go to Mexico to live in Alaska. I don't know, but it's never a straight line unless that happens for you. Like I can't say never. It could be a straight line. I don't know. It could be a straighter line than what's straight as possible. I don't know. But I can say that holding a specific outcome of exactly what you want can limit you from what is possible. And the way it comes in, it can also limit you. So like if you demand that you need money in order to achieve your dreams, you're probably still limiting yourself from what the universe can actually provide for you. It might show up in another form that's not money, maybe a partnership, maybe who knows, right? But that's a huge difference. You bring intensity to the action, you bring flexibility to the results. It's a balance. Now, step 5 is track feedback. What happened? Did the door open? Did the energy increase? Did the clarity increase? Did the resistance show up? Did a belief get exposed? Did you learn something useful? That is the whole loop. Event, question, action, outcome released, no expectation of outcome, and feedback. Track your feedback. That is how you turn synchronicity from entertainment into guidance. Now, let me show you how this works in real life. Let's say there's a guy named Mystical Mike or Mystical Michael. Mike is stuck. He hates his job. He's wanted to start coaching business for like 2 years. 2 years. Which, by the way, means he has not wanted to start a coaching business for 2 years. He has wanted to think about starting a coaching business for 2 years. Different business model, but lower revenue, right? So Mike starts seeing these signs. He sees 1111. Then he hears the word coach in a podcast, or maybe one of his favorite podcasts is hosting a coach, and he's talking about his coaching practice. And then a friend says, "You know what, Mike? You always give good advice, my guy." And then he walks by a sign that says, "Start today." And Mike goes, "The universe is telling me to quit my job. I know it." No, bro. You jabroni. The universe is telling you to stop lying to yourself. It might be telling you to quit your job, but it might also be saying, hey, stop lying to yourself. Stop lying about what step you're currently on. Because the next step is probably not quitting your job. The next step is getting one person result. That is it. If you're working a 9 to 5, you have 5 to 9 and 9 to 5 to help get one person one result to see if you even like it. Find one person, help them, document the process, see if they get value from it, and then help another person, then help 5 people, then maybe charge for it, then build an offer. Now, then once your income from coaching starts to get close to your 9 to 5 job, and you can see that if you had more time, you could service more people at a more significant impact, right? Once that happens, then maybe leave. Or if you feel more comfortable, you don't feel like your coaching practice can fully support you, don't rush into it. Because synchronicity, also, you need to feel like you are fully supported and capable of achieving that number that you need to support yourself before you let go of the other one. But Mike wants the synchronicity to skip the reps. That is the problem. He wants the signs to replace the skills necessary to achieve his goals. It will never do that. And this is a crucial part about synchronicity. It's the cruel part about synchronicity. Real synchronicity do not actually remove the work. They reveal the work that needs to be done. And that is why people ignore the best ones. Because the best ones point to something they know that they are already avoiding. You keep hearing about health because you know you need to get healthy. You keep meeting disciplined people because you know you lack discipline. You keep seeing business opportunities because you know you have been hiding behind preparation. You keep hearing about forgiveness because you know that there's a conversation you are avoiding. I know what it feels like to come face to face with a synchronicity that you know could potentially change your life, but not feeling prepared for it, not having the courage to act. And I know what it feels like to act on that synchronicity when that next step is clouded in darkness. Not knowing if you're doing the right thing, not knowing if what you're doing will actually bring you what you're looking for. I've done this myself. I've documented it. I've seen the opportunities that I missed. I've watched the opportunities within other people as well. I know it's hard. Not knowing if what you're doing is right, not knowing if what you doing is helpful to others, not knowing if you're being selfish when you're taking that step. It's hard. It's tough. But more often than not, it's worth it. And there's always forgiveness from the universe and from others as well. If you're doing what you are doing in aligned action. I know what it feels like to go against what you feel in order to help someone else, in order to be of service to other people, but it's out of alignment with yourself. I went through that, and I every day I'm grateful for the opportunity to become more within alignment with my own wants, needs, actions, thoughts, and lack of a better word, prayer. But it is a part of this reality, and it will never stop. There will always be synchronicities. You will always find something that's mirroring within you. It's up to you to change the person in the mirror. It's up to you. If you want to see a different reality, you have to change the patterns within yourself. The universe will follow with the mirror. Number 6, do not use synchronicities to avoid discernment. Now, this is where we need to draw a hard line because a synchronicity can feel meaningful and still not be objectively true. A coincidence can be emotionally useful and still not be a cosmic command, right? A moment can move you and still require judgment. Now, it might lose a couple of people when it comes to the psychology stuff, but they Psychology Today overviews synchronicity and notes that people often interpret unrelated experiences as meaningfully linked. While scientists explain that these experiences through ordinary coincidences and mental biases, so like confirmation bias and stuff like that. Now, I do believe that most scientists are not fully realizing the scope of what all of reality is, but For a lot of people who are having a hard time with accepting this information or just new to this information and they are more skeptical than ready to dive face first into a pool of spirituality. It's fine. Everyone goes at their own pace, which is why we have this rule. This rule allows you to go at your own pace if you are just learning about this type of concept, or you're new, or you're just skeptical of the whole thing. So it's fine. It's easy. We have a rule, and the rule is the more expensive the decision, the more evidence you need beyond the sign. So let's say seeing repeating numbers is not enough to marry someone, right? Maybe running into someone 3 times, not enough to invest your life savings. Another one would be dreaming about a city is not enough to move there with no plan, no money, no job, and no ability to tolerate humidity. Some cities get pretty moist. I took a stint in Miami. I was there for a minute. Different temperature than Arizona. So do your research first. It's all that means. So use synchronicity as more like a prompt. A lot of people are doing the AI thing. So use it as the same thing. Same thing. Nope. Like don't use it as proof. It's not proof. Prompt means investigate this. Proof means this is true, right? Most people confuse these two, and that's how they get themselves into trouble. So a sign, it can tell you where to look. It doesn't absolve you of looking. That's the big distinction here. Now, to be clear, there is also a mental health line here. When synchronicities become distressing, when everything feels like a secret message, when you feel like you're being controlled by signs, or when your ability to function starts to go down, that's not a sign to go deeper into the rabbit hole. That is the sign to get even more grounded and talk to a qualified professional, because pattern recognition is useful until it starts running your life. Then it becomes a liability. Same tool, wrong intensity though. Just like fire, it cooks food, but fire can also burn down the house. Pretty neat, right? So, number 7. The reason synchronicities feel so powerful is because that they compress meaning. Most of life feels random. I get that. You wake up, you check your phone, you answer emails if you still do that thing. I think millennials are the only ones that do that now. I don't know. You eat, you drive, you work, you sleep. It's all very inspiring. Then a synchronicity happens, and for 1 second, life feels organized. The outer world seems to match your inner world, your inner reality. And it feels good because humans are meaning making creatures. We're meaning making machines, biological machines. We do not just want events, we want narrative. We want to know, is this going somewhere? Is this for a purpose? And synchronicity feels like evidence that the story has a plot. But this is where you have to be careful, because the feeling of meaning can become addictive. Some people are not actually following their excitement, they're following the emotional high of feeling guided. Two different things. One creates action, the other one creates dependency. You can tell which one you're doing by looking at your behavior. Are you taking cleaner action? Are you becoming more grounded? Are you becoming more honest? Are you becoming more capable? Are your relationships improving or devolving? Is your life getting simpler? Or are you becoming more scattered, more anxious, more obsessive, more dependent on external validation? That's the test. Synchronicity should make you more responsible, not less. It should bring you into your life, not out of it. And this is where Bashard's formula is extremely useful. Again, because the formula is not just follow your excitement. People love that part. Of course they do. It's the dessert on the formula. But the formula also includes doing it to the best of your ability, releasing any insistence on outcome while staying positive, choosing a positive state no matter what happens, and then investigating your beliefs, fear-based, negative, out of alignment beliefs. That means the moment you follow your excitement and fear shows up, the fear is not proof you're on the wrong path. It might just be the belief system getting exposed. This was a huge reframe for me, and I hope it means the same for you. People think I followed my excitement and now I feel maybe it wasn't aligned. Not necessarily. Sometimes excitement opens the door and fear is standing right behind it, holding a clipboard. So, I am your limiting belief today, and I'll be conducting your inspection. And your job is not to run, your job is to investigate. What do I believe would happen if I act? What am I afraid this means? What identity would I have to lose? What comfort would I have to trade? What would I need to become more honest about? And that is where growth is. Not in the coincidence itself, in the belief it exposes you to. Number 8, here's a practical framework. I call it the synchronicity filter. 4 questions. So, question number 1, what happened? Again, just the facts, not poetry, not some cosmic fan fiction about your space opera. What happened? Question number 2, what was I already asking for? Meaning comes from context. Context comes from within. What is the smallest, cleanest action I can take right now? No action, no utility, no bueno. What feedback did the action produce? That's where all the learning is. So let's run an example, okay? You're thinking about launching a podcast. That is the internal question that you're having. Thinking about launching a podcast. I think I feel really good about launching a podcast. And then 3 people in 1 week tell you, man, you should really start a podcast. I really enjoy your conversations. The event happened, the question, the action. What's the smallest, cleanest action you could take from that information? Record one podcast, one episode. Record one episode podcast, one podcast episode. Not buy a microphone. Not design the cover art. Not spend 4 weeks comparing hosting platforms. Record one episode on your phone. Everyone has a phone. If you don't have a phone, interview someone. Use their phone. Borrow a phone. There's plenty of options. Use what resources you already have, right? Record one episode on your phone, and then the best part that everyone seems to be forgetting, everyone seems to overlook, the reason why there's so many people with one episode podcasts or a job that they start and then immediately quit. Send to 5 people. You need feedback. You need feedback to close the loop. And don't just send it to them and say, hey, check this out. And then don't ask them anything. It's like, ask them. See if they cared. Did they care? Did you enjoy it? Did you finish it? Did it create energy within you? Did it open the next door? That is how you test. Most people do this backwards. They get to synchronicity, and then they build the identity, then they buy all the gear, and then they announce the thing. Then they make one episode, and then they disappear without getting feedback. It's classic. I've been there. It's classic. If I have the episode, I'll bring it down just to show you what I went through. I've been there. I know how it feels. I know how it feels. I get it. I get it. I get it. It's scary. It's I don't know. I don't want to be judged. It's okay. No one knows who you are anyway. Just you can always go back. You can always change, but you want feedback in order to improve. Everyone wants it perfect the first time. Guilty. But for perfection doesn't matter. Consistency does. The sign was not wrong. The process was bad. It was dog shit. Different problem. Or take relationships. You you think about someone and they text you. You go, it's a sign. I freaking know it. Freaking know it. This time, it's a sign. Well, maybe. Especially if it's someone that you like, admire, or starting to date or would like to date. Maybe, but what's the action? One honest conversation. Not project your entire future onto them. Not ignore every incompatibility because Mercury had a cute little moment. One honest conversation. Then see what the feedback comes back. This is what grounded spirituality looks like. It's not less magical, it's more useful. It's more helpful, it's more grounding. And we're in a 3D reality. We're not up here in the stars and stuff. It's amazing that we can contemplate on realities beyond this physical reality. And I love talking about that. And I'm going to make a lot of videos about that. I look forward to it. Lucid dreaming, synchronicities, astral projection. I love all these things, but we came into this reality to experience this 3D realm, to get as much juice as we can squeeze out of it. And when you don't say yes to your synchronicities, if you don't create alignment within yourself and a singular goal, whether that's, living on a shack on a beach and just enjoying life, or creating a multi-billion-dollar company to enjoy your beach time on the moon, doesn't matter. Like, you came into this reality, figure out what it is and pursue it. Learn from it. Get as much experience points as you can. That's the purpose of this experience, I think, is to learn. And I think this way, there's many ways to learn. Like an accountant can learn without spirituality concepts, but I enjoy the spirituality concepts. I find it richer. I find it more just fun. And if you're watching this and you're gotten this far into the video, I think you feel the same way, or you're some weird masochist who's just reading this shit to talk shit. Which cool, I guess. Glad you're enjoying life. So number 9, there's a cost to chasing signs. Let's do the math. Let's say you have 100 meaningful coincidences within a year. Of those 100, maybe 80 are just noise. Noise and attention, right? Maybe 15 are invitations. And then maybe 5 are confirmations after real action was taken, right? Now, if you treat all 100 like they're divine commands from the universe, your life becomes chaotic. You're moving cities, you're changing careers, you're texting people crazy shit, you're quitting things, you're starting things, you're buying domain names, signing up for retreats, and somehow every month you're in a transition period. Stacy, you're not aligned, you're unstable. But if you treat all 100 synchronicities like they're prompts, now the game changes. The 80 noise and attention moments become journaling, The 15 invitations become a small little test to see where this is going. You can always go back. You're just wanting to test the waters. You want to you want to you want to wade in the waters. And then those 5 confirmations become double down actions. You know what they're leading to. You're aligned with your thoughts, your actions, and your beliefs, and the confirmation shows up for you to double down on them. So, same number of synchronicities, but completely different life paths. Because the issue is not how many signs you get, the issue is your conversion process. Signs multiplied by interpretation equals story. Signs multiplied by action equals feedback. Feedback multiplied by consistency equals a path. That's the map, that's the data. And data, like I said, allows you to observe. And when you observe something, you're allowed to change it. You're allowed to manipulate it. And this is why two people can have the exact same synchronicities and get completely different outcomes. One person, which is typically the spiritual bypasser, right? The person who uses spirituality to bypass what they need to do, that person turns this synchronicity into an Instagram post. Whereas the grounded spiritual person, the person who practices grounded spirituality, they turn it into a phone call to go after what they want in life. The spiritual bypasser turns it into a fantasy that they like to think about and obsess over and tell their friends all about how that synchronicity happened that one time at Burning Man. The grounded spiritual practice turns it into a test. The other waits for more signs, and the other person gets more data. Guess who gets clarity faster? The person moving, the person taking action, always. Now, number 10. The hardest part about synchronicity is that the best guidance usually gives you the next step, not the whole staircase. And people hate that. They want certainty. They want the 10-year plan. They want the universe to show them the finished movie before they arrange to shoot the first scene. And that's not how this works. That's not how this reality operates. You get one step, then you take it or you don't. And if you don't take it and it's important to your life path, the universe will keep beating you over the head with more pressure until you boil up into taking that step or get into an accident that forces you to do something else, right? That's, of course, if you're still obsessing over the same thing or thinking about the same thing, or you're still entrained in the same pattern and you haven't learned to change your belief system. You could just change your belief, change your perception on reality. And the thing that you're beating your head over to get through might change as well. Just might. I don't know. You gotta try it. Maybe you gotta try it. But no matter what happens, that next step appears, which is annoying. I get it. But there's always that next step. The steps are never ending until we transition. But changing your perception as to wanting to get the goal to wondering, having curiosity with that next step, no matter what comes up, and having positivity excreting from you, having positivity excreting from your heart. Doesn't matter what the next step is, you'll find what you need to do. You'll find what you need to do that's in alignment with your thoughts, beliefs, and actions to move forward within your life. But that's also almost everything. Everything real works. That's just how everything works. Think about driving at night. The headlights do not show you the entire road from California to New York. They show you the next 200 feet. And somehow that's enough for you, right? As long as you keep moving, you can see where you're going. You can follow the signs. And synchronicities are like headlights. They're not the whole map. And the reason that this matters is because of many of you are waiting for a level of certainty that only action is supposed to create. You want clarity before movement, but clarity is usually the byproduct of movement, not the whole thing. It's not a prerequisite. That's the painful part. I know. I freaking know. I live I live a human life, human experience just like you. It's not different. It just depends on how you handle and respond or react to life. That changes your beliefs, your habits, and your attention and your actions, right? If you're confused, it's not because the signs are unclear. If you're confused, it's because you're trying to think your way into information that only action can produce. You cannot know whether the city is right until you visit it. You cannot know whether the business works until you sell stuff within the business. You cannot know whether the relationship has depth until you have the honest conversation. Not because you just want to play with each other's giblets, which is also fun, but it's different. You cannot know whether the path is alive until you walk it. At some point, the spiritual work becomes very unspiritual in perception. It becomes scheduling, it becomes reps, it becomes honesty with yourself. It becomes doing the thing you already know is next, but you're waiting for confirmation or permission. Which brings me to my next big mistake. Most people do not want synchronicity. They want permission. They want permission to live. They want permission to leave. They want permission to start. They want permission to stop. They want permission to choose themselves over others. Permission to disappoint someone. Permission to be seen. Permission to fail. And permission to win. It's probably the hardest one. And that's because they do not want to own the decision. They want to make the universe sign the paperwork for them. That's the real issue. You want reality to take responsibility for your choice, but it will not. Even in Bashar's framework, you still have free will. The sign, it does not choose. You choose. The sign may illuminate. The sign may provoke you. The sign may conform. It may expose, but you choose. And the more you accept that, the more powerful synchronicities become. Because now they're not controlling you. They're collaborating with you. So here's a closing rule for you. Do not ask, is this a sign? That's usually a low quality question. Better question for you? What does this make me aware of? What action does this invite? What belief does this expose? What feedback did I receive after taking action? Those questions will make you significantly more grounded within your practice. And ironically, probably more synchronistic as well. Because once you act, reality has something to respond to. So the move is not to chase signs. The move is to build a life where you are in enough motion, honesty, and alignment that the signs actually have somewhere to land. Follow the clearest excitement. Take it as far as you possibly can. Release a demand that it looks away your ego wants it to look. Stay in a useful, positive state. Integrate the belief that comes up, whether that's fear, pain, anxiety, unalignment, then track the feedback. That is the loop. And when you do that long enough, synchronicity stops being this weird thing that happens once in a while. It becomes a normal part of how you navigate this reality. The fun part, magical part. And not because it becomes magical, because you become available. Available to notice, available to act, available to learn, available to change your behaviors, your beliefs. That is when meaningful coincidences stop being entertainment and it becomes guidance for you. And for anyone having trouble applying this, or you're completely new to these concepts and excited to learn more, or you're just looking for a like-minded group to join, Like I said at the beginning, I created a community where I help you navigate and apply these metaphysical concepts with grounded spirituality, which just simply means a spiritual path that stays anchored in everyday life, practical real world focus, rather than chasing mystical highs or escaping reality. Think meditation that leads to better relationships, not just enlightenment. Now, if that sounds exciting to you, look in the description below and join now. I'll see you in the next video.